Welcome to the All Access Podcast from the experts at Thiessen. Each episode, we'll talk about technology topics, trends, or solutions that manufacturers need to know in today's rapidly evolving times. Sit back, enjoy the discussion, and let us know what you think.
Hey, my friends, welcome to the All Access Podcast. I am your host, Michael Thiessen, coming to you from the beautiful studio here in Troy, Michigan at the location of Thiessen America. Welcome, friends. Glad that you made it again to this episode. Today, we're talking about the selling in a competitive market. All of you guys are in the mold and die industry, and you guys are doing exactly the same thing what we're doing over here at Thiessen, and that is trying to make sure that all of you have our lovely software in your hands so that you guys can be as productive as possible. And that is called selling. But in order to make sure that you have the right tools and the right mindset, we have invited one of our dear friends to this particular podcast because he is the true expert. Because he brings just decades of experience. He has a sincere passion for this particular genre. Along with that comes just a little bit of humor. Mr. Ken Seawell is going to be on here with us. Now, let me just make sure that you guys all understand who Ken is. Ken is the managing partner of the Sandler Training by EAM Consulting Group. And you know what? Ken shows the sales leaders and their teams, of course, how to master the powerful sales methodology that was developed. And it's called the Sandler Selling System. Now, he takes a little bit of a different approach. He takes a different approach to the just traditional sales process, which is knocking on doors, calling, doing whatever, just the traditional sales process. And he challenges long-held sales beliefs and demonstrates how to place the power and control of the sales process firmly in the hands of you, the sales professional, or the seller at your company. You know, and I had a real pleasure just recently where Ken and I attended the AMBA Conference 2022 in Chicago, Illinois. I can tell you this from attending this event. First of all, it was a fabulous event. And during that particular conference, Ken Seawell had a breakout session, and he really made an impact at this breakout session with all of the attendees. A lot of good information came through to all the participants. So in case you missed the AMBA 2022 and you could not make it, we have Ken Seawell on this particular podcast in order to give you the opportunity to hear what he has to say. And just to give you a little glimpse of what he talked about at AMBA 2022. He's my coach. He's teaching me of how to be more productive. And I thought, what better person to bring on the show than Mr. Ken Seawell. Ken, hey, welcome to the All Access Podcast.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, it's wonderful for you to be part of this because you are truly the expert when it comes to the selling process. Share a little bit about yourself, Ken, if you would.
Well, that's some high praise there, Mr. Thiessen. So I appreciate the kind words. Yes, I've been with Sandler now 12 years. I'm not a Michigander, but I've been here 22 years, so I feel like a Michigander now. And enjoy just working with people, watching them get the information, watching them learn, the light bulbs go off in their head, and really feel fulfilled and blessed to be able to do something that I enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know each other now for what? Close to about a year and a half, something like that?
Yes.
And I can honestly say you've made quite an impact on me with your teaching methods, your methodology. You're almost like a shrink to me because of just the methods that you apply. Now, obviously, the listeners that we have out there are in the mold and die industry, manufacturing industry. Is manufacturing selling, or the selling in a manufacturing industry, any different than selling shoes, for example?
That's a great question, Michael. I think that I hear it all the time when people say we're different. And I have to be honest that I think we all do the same thing. We all introduce ourselves to strangers. We all talk to people about problems, and we all exchange money for services. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what the definition of selling is. And so everyone who does that on some level sells. Yes, there are nuances to selling that, we have to factor into the conversation, but at the heart of it, selling is selling. It's having a conversation with someone and exchanging money for services.
I mean, you're big on people. I mean, you come off real easy. You understand how individuals behave because you have that knack. You know exactly what kind of character I am using the DISC profile. And you kind of understand of how to talk to people because each person is just a little bit different.
Correct. I think that starts initially with my own attitude about me. If I have my head on right, if I feel like my need for approval is in check and my self-worth is high, then I can always deliver a good version of myself to whoever I'm talking to. And I have this definition of emotional intelligence that I try to live. And I got to be honest, I'm a human. I don't do it well every time, but I practice making sure that the person I'm talking to feels better about themselves after the conversation with me. So if I can deliver that, then I feel like I've done a good job. And, I believe in what I do. I don't worry about making money or, having enough of this or that. I just do what I do. And I think the money follows your success. So.
And having fun while you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, life is way too short not to enjoy it. And so, we all get those people that on the phone want to blow us up or, take away our okayness or make us feel bad. But at the end of the day, what am I going to do? I don't care.
Right. See, I grew up in the manufacturing business. I was on the other side. I was the one that kicked out the sales guys because they were sometimes sleazy, sometimes too pushy, sometimes all of this. And of course, when I switched over from the manufacturing side on the other side of the fence and jumped over the fence and went into selling, I always tell people that's when I became my worst enemy. And only through your organization, Sandler's or Sandler Selling Systems, and the team that you have, it actually has become more fun because you talk to more individuals, and it is a fair talk. It is, like you said earlier, you're not trying to take any okay away, because we all know all these sales guys or the sales department, so to speak, it's considered sleazy, the used car salesman and all of this, and they all provide the term sales just a bad name.
Yeah, there's a stereotype around being a slimy, manipulative son of a gun that in some cases is well-deserved, right? And those of us that want to practice the art of having a adult-to-adult conversation in which there is a mutual interest in trying to get something accomplished, it gives us a bad name. But they're out there, and so we have to overcome that. And, we can wail against it being right, that we have to do it, but at the end of the day, we just have to deliver what we say we're going to do the way we say we're going to do it. And I firmly believe that if someone really wants to solve a problem in their business, then we can have a mutually beneficial conversation about it. Because that's my only job, is to help people figure out what's the right, smart, good business decision to make to solve the problem that's getting in the way of them making money and living the life they want to live.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in the mold and die industry, obviously the people that we're talking to here, they just don't have companies knocking on their door and saying, hey, I want you to do my job. They have probably sales guys in their facilities as well that have to go through and do the necessary deeds in order to bring more and more business in. If I'm looking at the young mold makers that are just starting off in the business, yeah, there may be no one or two people that provide them on work, but they need more. So what are some of the tools? I mean, of course, we know the telephone, you pick up the telephone. There's email tools. What are some of the tools that you would say works in order to get some sales in?
What I've found is a multi-pronged approach using email, LinkedIn, and the phone to really create a platform for selling, because I don't know which platform people are most comfortable communicating through. So I think using all of them makes sense. I like LinkedIn a lot. You know, it's really the story behind how we got together. You know, we were, John and I connected on LinkedIn back in April of the pandemic. Maybe that's 2020. And we started a conversation via LinkedIn, and by October, we were in serious negotiations about working together. And so I think that, using LinkedIn to create connections and then go into the connections and having some kind of very honest dialogue about, hey, why don't we find 15 minutes to talk, and I'll learn your story, you learn mine, and then we'll figure out if there's something to go from there. And I think it creates an opportunity for you to have a warmer conversation over the phone because you've already met through LinkedIn. And if you're setting something up, you're scheduling a conversation over the phone with them that they've scheduled and you've scheduled, so both of you have it on your calendars and you can give it undivided attention for 15 minutes, whatever time frame you set up. I really like that approach. And that's how I do it. I use LinkedIn to drive initial conversations over the phone, and then I'll let the conversation over the phone dictate where it goes from there.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing better than talking to somebody, recognizing their voice inflections, seeing how they're reacting to certain questions, the hesitations, all of those kind of things you can't just get from an email or a text message. Texts are the worst, but you can't get that from an email or just a LinkedIn conversation.
We forget with this age of instant gratification via texts, Instagram and Twitter and all the things you can do on your phone and through the computer, we forget that that's only 7% of the way people communicate is the words they use. So there's 93% of how I understand what you're trying to communicate to me that I'm losing just using my text or using the email or LinkedIn. So I have to balance that. Because, you can hear hesitancy, you can hear disbelief, you can hear excitement, you can hear people, I'll say this bluntly, lie to you over the phone, where you might not hear that, get that through emails. And I think the other thing about the phone is that it's immediate. If a guy didn't want to talk to you, he's going to tell you that. And so I get a pretty clear understanding of what happens in real time rather than, LinkedIn or email, which may take 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 weeks to get some kind of response. And so I think you have to use them all. You can't rely on one. I think there's, they say, moderation is good for a lot of things, and I think it's the same in selling. You got to balance phone calls and emails and LinkedIn to drive opportunities for people to get a sense of who you are.
Right. Now, I read multiple articles throughout the last 10 years almost, or if not longer, about that cold calling is dead. Cold calling is dead. Everybody jumped on this bandwagon and cold emails, and then all of a sudden, the emails were just flooded up with tons of email. Now, then the email systems realized that, you know what, we can create this thing called spam, and we just let everything go into that little folder, and we're all okay. Is cold calling dead?
No. Short answer is no. The long answer is, if I'm calling people out of the yellow pages and just dialing numbers, that's really hard to do. But I think if we look at what the definition of cold calling is, and let's take cold calling out of and just talk about prospecting by the phone, right? If I look at it as making phone calls to people I know that don't have a clear understanding of what I do, then that's easy. Because there's a ton of people I could call that would take my call that I could have a conversation with. And so I don't have to overcome that you don't know who I am thing. Okay? So I think we give prospecting over the phone a bad rap, so to speak, because we think it's all about calling a bunch of people we don't know. Yes, there's some of that. I dial people that have never heard my name, don't know who I am from Adam, and that's okay. But there was a ton of people that I called that recognize my name, and then it's a more comfortable conversation.
Right. It should all turn into just a regular conversation like you and I are having. And it should about selling is not so much about selling. It's more or less trying to figure out of how two people can help each other, and especially helping each other in order to fix an issue or fix a problem that one of them is having.
Right. And I think that prospecting, whatever way you do it, is, I'll use the gumball analogy. So, Michael, what's your favorite colored gumball when you were growing up?
Blue.
All right. So you probably back in your day put a penny in the gumball machine, or whatever the German equivalent of a penny is.
Oh, you're making me just older than I am, maybe.
Okay, whatever.
But go with a penny. That's okay.
A penny, right? So you got a penny in the gumball machine, and you turn in it, and you get a red and a yellow and a white. And do you have a brother or a sister?
I have a sister, yes.
All right. So did you, since they weren't blue, did you give them all to your sister because you didn't want them?
Let's say I was a good brother, and I would say yes.
All right. So you kept putting pennies in that gumball machine till you got the blue one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what prospecting is.
Correct.
You're continuing to put pennies in the gumball machine till you get an opportunity to get the one that you like. The other way to look at it is sorting, right? You're taking a list of people that are suspects.
Right.
And you're trying to figure out if they're going to be a prospect or they're going to be a reject. And you're just sorting. And that's all you're doing.
But what do you tell to the salespeople for these mold and die makers that are on the phone and getting shut down day after day? Because it can be emotionally straining. It could be defeating at the end of the day when you're trying to get business in, and it's just it just doesn't fall. What do you say to those salespeople?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, we teach at Sandler that success is the activity, not the result. Because if I do the behaviors that I say I'm going to do, if I build a plan and I have a plan about how many behaviors, interactions I'm going to do on a daily basis, and I do those interactions, I can bet on a good outcome. And so I think if you do what you say you're going to do and spend your energy, time, and effort on doing what you say you're going to do instead of worrying about the result, you're in a better headspace. Because you can't control the back end of that. I can walk away today feeling good about doing my behaviors because I did them.
Right.
There's nowhere in there that says you do your behaviors and X number have to translate into a next step.
Right. Now, obviously there's a whole bunch of different sales approaches. And in my intro, when I introduced you, I'd mentioned that you take a different approach than the traditional approach. What is the traditional approach?
Well, the traditional approach is going to get on the phone and say, "Hey, Michael, Ken Seawell, I work for Sandler. I've got a sales training company. And I think I can save you. I could turn your results into 3 times what you're doing now. And let's sit down and talk about it. What your schedule look like on Friday?" And I sort of bombarded you with a little bit about what I do and the features and benefits of what I do. And nowhere in there did I actually, I asked you if you had time or asked permission to have a conversation. None of that, right? I just started pitching my story.
Right. It's like as you say, sometimes, at least from what I remember, and I do listen up when you say, it's not so much about me, it's more about you. It's selling is more about listening than me talking.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right, Michael. We put too much emphasis as sellers on ourselves and not enough on the prospect because we don't have a better process. We default to what we know, which is us. And I think what we have to do is, and what I'm trying to do is teach people that other way so they can make the conversations about the prospect and not about ourselves, the sellers.
So as you just said, it's so much more important to understand the other side that you're talking to, understand where he is sitting, what he is dealing with, than me trying to say, hey, we're creating great molds over here and we're having all of these machines. We can help you. That's not the way how a salesperson should be doing it.
Right. Now, before we even start that, though, there's one thing I want to talk about that I think is a brilliant part of what we do. It's called the pattern interrupt. And so, a pattern interrupt by definition is when I do something to break your chain of thought and I divert and shift your attention away from what you're doing, your thoughts from what you're doing to something else. Okay. And so if you think about it, I say this, there's a couple ways to just explain it in just layman's terms. Think about you're in an argument with somebody and they're really sort of heated and they're going off on you, and you just look at them and you say, "What's your favorite color?" Right in the middle of that argument, they stop to think about what their favorite color is. You just interrupted their thoughts. You just shifted the focus, right? The other thing, if you have a dog and they're about to eat a stick, or like my dog does, likes to eat poop, and I redirect his thoughts by giving him a treat, that's the same sort of thing, right? What we have to do is we have to do a pattern interrupt with sales prospects because they're already in their buyer's system, right? The moment they pick up the phone and they sense you're a salesperson, they're already got that wall up.
Right.
So what I want to do is just break the pattern. And one of the simplest things I do is I'll go, role play with me for a second, Michael. I'll go, "Michael, it's Ken Seawell."
Hi, Ken.
Michael, I'm guessing my name means absolutely nothing to you.
You're 100% correct. Doesn't mean anything.
All right, so what I've done is I've broken the pattern, right? Because now you're thinking about who I am, who's Ken Seawell, where do I know this guy, should I know this guy, who the hell's Ken Seawell, right?
And normally a sales guy would normally start off with saying, "Hey, my name is Michael Thiessen. I'm from ABC, and I can do XYZ."
Yeah, and what I want to do is I want to do it differently, and I want to start with that pattern interrupt. Because every time I do it, I will hear that wall come down. I can hear the wall coming down. They'll say things like, "Yeah, I don't know you," or "Yeah, I've seen your LinkedIn post to me. I haven't called you back." So it changes the dynamics, right? It keeps that playing field level. And so I'm not just some cat calling him out of the blue. I have to force him to think, who am I? And changes the way he's thinking in his head. Because here's the key to selling. Until I get the buyer out of their system, I can't sell them anything.
Right. Right.
So what I want to do is try to get them out of their buyer system so that we can have a mutually beneficial conversation. And so the next thing I do in that is I'll say, after I break that pattern, is I'll ask permission to share. Michael,
Well, that's different.
Yeah. Do you mind, Michael, if I take in 30 seconds to share with you why I called? You can tell me if it makes sense to keep talking. At that point, you give me 30 seconds. At the end of 30 seconds, we can decide if there's something more to talk about. If there isn't, we'll shake hands virtually, part friends, and be done.
Absolutely.
But the third thing is then to have a 30-second commercial, and that's the crux of where I think most salespeople struggle, because their 30-second commercial focuses on the wrong thing.
Now, the 30-second commercial, correct me if I'm wrong, is essentially a company's elevator pitch of what they do. And normally the sales guy would come in and say, we do this, and we're great at that. And now, of course, instead of coming in right away and barging through the door, the 30-second commercial is a little bit more softer, more refined.
Again, if we go back to some things we talked about earlier, the 30-second commercial where we do this well, we do this well, we do this well is about me, not about the prospect, right?
Correct.
And I think there's a couple things that it does. The other thing I think it does is it basically gives the prospect an opportunity to dismiss you because you may say something that they don't need. And you say it too early, and then they have an opportunity to sort of dismiss the opportunity, right? And I think the other thing is it doesn't do anything to figure out what's important to the prospect. And so what I want my clients to do when they're thinking about this elevator pitch / 30-second commercial is to think about what are the problems that their features and benefits solve for their clients. So if I'm talking about selling, what I do in sales training, what I'm thinking about is I could tell them that I help them learn how to make better, prospecting calls, but nobody cares, right?
So if I would come up to you, Ken, we'll take you for example, and if I would ask you, I'd never met you in my life before. I've seen you maybe at a trade show, and I walk up to you and I say, "Hey, Ken, what is Sandler?" What would be your answer?
I would say, Michael, why do you want to know about Sandler? I'm going to break the pattern right off the bat.
Good step. And I would say, well, I've seen this this booth. It looks very flashy, and I've seen you standing there, and I want to know more about what you guys do. So what do you guys do?
Well, can I put it in context, Michael?
Sure.
If there was one thing in your world about selling that if you could fix right now, you'd be 100% happier, what would it be?
In the world of selling?
In the world of selling.
What would make me happier is to get purchase orders come in.
Or are they not coming in fast enough? Or are they not coming in at all?
Oh, they're coming in a nice steady rate, but of course, the faster they come in, it always is better, because then we have molds on the shop floor, and my guys have enough work to get their days done.
So maybe what I'm hearing is that you'd like to get purchase orders fast, or maybe shortening the selling cycle.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's the kind of stuff we work on.
So immediately you already explained what you guys are doing, how you guys can help me as being on the other side without you having to tell me exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, because the next thing out of my mouth is, Michael, I don't know if that's even something you want to have a conversation about. Sounds like you're doing pretty good.
Smart.
Does it make sense for us to talk?
Smart. Subtle way sometimes is better than being blunt and just all about me.
I think at the end of the day, there's a conviction that prospects need to want to take action to change what they're doing. I think that people move away from pain towards pleasure, but they need help doing it. And I have to help them feel like what they're about to do, if they're interested in my product or services, is going to be less work and more beneficial than what they're doing now.
Right. So obviously, selling, that's what we do all day long, and all of your customers and even the mold shops, that's what they're doing all day long. But your type of philosophy and your ways of doing it is not just selling to somebody else. It's for every single day operation of your dealing with your family, dealing with your kids. And that kind of thought process can be applied to almost anything.
I say this a lot, that Sandler is a lifestyle for me. It's given me clarity with the people in my lives. It's given me better conversations. It's taken a lot of the conspiracy and the anger out of things where I think someone's trying to pick on me. And it's allowed me to not get involved in conversations that are dysfunctional and could potentially be hurtful. And I just don't get in.
I mean, obviously, sales is not an easy job to do. But if you can combine difficult with having fun and doing it and fun while you're doing it, it makes it more palatable. It makes it more easier to just pick up the phone and call somebody and just have a conversation. And at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe you're going to land the job of a lifetime, maybe not.
And I think that to that point, Michael, I've found this sort of exercise to be really good for that. To choose between being judgmental or curious. So if I sit here at the beginning of a day and I've got to make 15 phone calls, I can be judgmental to say, oh, this guy's not going to talk to me, or this is going to be a long day, or, I can't interrupt important people. I'm already judging what's going to happen. If I take the judgment out of it and just be curious and say, I'm just going to call these cats to see what's going on and see if there's any interest, and then just be curious.
If there's one thing that you could tell our listeners that are operating in our market here, what would it be to stand out and do? Obviously, there are tons of competitors. I mean, competitors almost everywhere, and nowadays selling is at times ruthless, sometimes cutthroat. What would you say to these individuals? What is that one thing that they should be doing to stand out?
Be different. If you're doing everything that your competition is doing, stop and do something else. So a good example for me is I need 3 bids, right? When you're in that bidding game, when you get requests for proposals or those kind of things.
Right.
I'll call the guy up and I'll say to him, the person, and I'll say, hey, in order for me to bid on this, I'd like to find, 15, 20 minutes to talk about it. That right there is different because most of us don't do that, and we go through this mental exercise that, they're interested in our product and service, let's quote it. But they don't ask themselves, why is this guy interested in my product or service? So the first thing I'm going to do is call him up and ask him, why did you include me in the bid? Right? And, if I get we're looking for 3 bids, then I know I'm probably not the guy. And if I can't get the guy to give me 15 minutes on the phone to talk about it, then I'm going to politely decline to be considered. I'm just going to back out. And that's different. Because if the guy doesn't want me to be in it or doesn't care if I'm in it, he's going to be, okay. But if he wants me to be in it, he's going to say, wait. Now I know I've got maybe an opportunity here. And so it's just being different.
So the fun thing is, for me, is to meet up with you because at the end of our classes and the guidance and the mentoring that you guys provide, it leaves a difference, because I know from myself of it works. The stuff that you guys teach at Sandler works. It makes a difference. And our team here at Tebbis, they have seen it because we're helping people finding solutions that before they just didn't realize. And I have to ask about your secret talent, because I have to ask you, how different is better than better? You know what I mean by that?
I know what you mean by that.
But I have to ask that. Now, of course, you can say, no, I don't want to tell you or tell the listeners. But what is your secret talent? Everybody's wondering about that.
I think that, my background is varied just varied, right? I spent the first 15 years of my life, business life after college, in the hotel business, where I learned how to cook, right? And so I can do that professionally. Then I spent a little bit of time in the clothing business, so I learned how to dress, and so
and it shows.
I think I dress really well, but what I do really well is cook. And I think people don't know that about me. I can cook.
You can whip up pretty much anything, and it comes out perfect.
Well, we used to do this thing in our church where we'd have a silent auction for the youth trip, and raise money for their going on a trip. And one year I put a dinner for 6 out there, and boy, was it like a madhouse. And the next year I had to do 2. And so I've done a lot of these little 6-plate dinners where I go to the person's house and I cook the meal in their house.
Wow.
And just six courses. It was pretty fun.
Awesome. That's a great secret talent to have, and I compliment you for this. Ken, unfortunately, we're coming towards the end. What would be the one thing that you would want to leave with our listeners of what they should be changing in their operation and their way of doing?
I think they should be changing their mindset, right? All of us have good products or services. All of us have stories of how we've helped people, and all of us can share those stories. Because we have an obligation to ourselves, to our family, and to our business to go out there and share what we do, share those stories. And we have to look at ourselves as not a liability or an inconvenience to the prospect we're talking to. We have to look at them and say, in our head, we're an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to be the thing that helps them fix what's broken in their business. And all they have to do is listen. And so if we can get people to shift their mindset around that, then I think we're off to a good start.
Wonderful. Well, Ken, I appreciate you for giving us your insight. And I thank you for being on the All Access podcast. It definitely was a treat. Hopefully it was a treat to all of you guys listening, and that you got 1 or 2 things or 3 things out of this particular episode. As I already said, I've known Ken now for quite some time here, and he definitely can make sure that you have the right mindset when you go through and you do your selling. Go out, pick up the phone, contact the business of your choice that you want to get in contact with in order to get some more business in through your door. Just pick up the phone, have a conversation, listen. And if at the end of that conversation, you end up with a business for your team, that's perfect. And that's what we want you to do. That's what we want you to make sure that your business can be more successful than it was yesterday. And that's key, especially in today's society where we're trying to get as much business retained here in our US of A and making sure that we manufacture here. So Sandler Selling Systems is in Troy, Michigan. If you need to get in contact with Ken, you definitely can reach out to me. Send us an email at marketing@tebbisusa.com and let us know what you think of the show. Give us some ideas. With that said, I wish you guys a wonderful rest of the day. Enjoy yourself and be successful in what you do.
Thank you for joining this episode of All Access. Please leave a comment or review with your feedback or what you'd like to hear in future episodes. To learn more about manufacturing technology solutions and Tebbis's capabilities, visit our website at Tebbis. That's TEBIS.com.